Hey, how are you doing?
Good, good.
Um, nice to meet you. I will briefly introduce myself and maybe I can hear a bit more about your background before
Yeah,
we get
absolutely.
started with the system design mock interview. Yeah, I personally work on foundation modeling. So
Hmm.
instead of trying to own one of these machine learning models, what I do is I build horizontally scaling infrastructure to support like multiple modeling teams to maintain their data pipelines, maintain their offline data storage. And when it comes to online serving, I make sure that they have a reasonable design. Yeah,
Wow.
that is about of my work.
So for myself, program manager, and I
Mhm,
basically handle 13 resources internationally and domestically,
mm,
four different locations,
nice.
and sort of like multi-layered customization SaaS systems for the clients. It could be anything from doing connections between different apps
Mhm,
or just spinning up a utility tool for their need.
cool,
Smooth
cool,
sailing.
great. Okay. Um, yeah, let's get started. Do you have a preferred drawing tool?
Yeah, I was thinking of whimsical. So you see that here? This is
Cool,
one I like here.
cool. This is good.
Great,
Yeah. So the little system we're building today is for a stock viewing app.
great.
So um, essentially, our users can use it to track the latest information about some stocks, like the prices, um, some metadata of the company, um, view some like information,
Oh,
and
oh, oh, oh. You were actually running through the functional requirements here. Woo, 1 second. That
yeah,
was, sorry, I'm like a little slow in the head here.
yeah, yeah,
So you were saying viewing
yeah.
stocks, and then you talked about viewing the,
Yeah,
um,
so essentially, it's not something like Robinhood. We are not allowing our
mm,
users to trade and buy, sell stocks on our platform. Where just a close example would be like Apple stock.
mm,
So yeah, the first function that I would like to have is like individual stock view.
mm-hmm,
So essentially, the price history, like as a chart, like a price history chart, along with some basic information about the company. Most of those are going to be text based.
mm-hmm,
So for the price chart, I would like to have the flexibility of changing the viewing window. Like you can do 1 day, 1 year.
mm-hmm,
Yeah,
mm,
yeah. Another thing I would like to have is a searching. So for simplicity, we are only supporting the searching for exact match on the stock symbols.
mm-hmm,
So for like AAPL, I'm gonna press like A, and then everything starts with an A will pop up in the list, and you can
mm,
sort them in some order. If you click into one stock in that list, you go back to the first view, which is the individual stock view.
I see. Okay.
Another thing I would like to have is a watch list. So for simplicity, we are only allowing each user to build one watch list, and capped at 50 stocks. You can put at most 50 stocks in that watch list. So for the watch list, I'm gonna support a like an overview of the whole watch list. So essentially, you can think of it as a table. On the left side, you have stock symbols AAPL, TSLA, and on the right is their latest price and maybe the percentage price change compared to
Mm,
yesterday's closing price.
okay.
Yeah, and yeah, these are the three main features I would like to have for
Mm-hmm,
the yeah.
great. So are we doing a high level like TPM, or is this going to be a low level like a full stack developer?
Yeah, high level
This is high level. Okay, good.
system design. Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. Very specific here in the requirements.
Mhm.
Good,
Mhm.
good. Awesome. And then okay, so it's individual stock viewing about the company, uh, price chart, be able to view change the viewing system. Like, you're talking about like blocking them off by year or time span, maybe a
Mhm.
certain number of categories you want to view. And then you also mentioned about the searching option, about changing some of the features with regards to different variables on the
Mhm.
searches. You
Mhm.
mentioned about, plugging A or B or C, and then from there getting a list of all the A options from A or C or B, and then or maybe a company name with those categories, and then sorting that. Like maybe you're
Right.
saying, you know, the most recent stock update or the most expensive stock update or the cheapest stock update, whatever that is, variable.
Mhm.
Then a watch list. Okay, good.
Mhm.
Awesome. And then since I don't have much experience with regards to stock viewing apps, I'm presuming this is pretty complete. I don't know of any variables myself that I would add to that.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Mhm.
So then from non-functional requirements, is there anything we should be mindful in that one?
Yeah. Do you have something
I was just
mind?
thinking low lag.
Yeah.
And latency. This is just generic. I didn't want to, like, you know, just generic, not really. I see this as pulling stuff in online, and it's not really going to be top heavy with regards to video feeds or, you know, constant like updates or like someone
Right.
posting something that is going to be, you know, social media where like TikTok or something like that, where, you know, Ryan Reynolds does something with him being funny with like we're doing another Deadpool movie or something like that, and everyone jumps on there to watch the video with him making a comment about it. I don't see like spikes like that we have to take into account. It seems pretty cut and dry. This is basically something that, you know, hedge funds out of Wall Street will be viewing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Good.
let's be a little specific. So the overall load serving latency will be like 100 milliseconds.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do have another sort of another kind of latency, which is the stock price. So essentially, this is about serving. This 100 milliseconds about the serving. Another thing is about like how real time our stock price needs to be, right? So essentially,
Right.
in our case, because we're not supporting trading, we don't really have the price defined. So we have to get the price from somewhere else, usually from stock exchanges like NYSE. So NYSE is going to provide a basic API where you specify the stock symbol and a timestamp, which can be like now. And then that's going to give you the corresponding price. So the latency on the price update is like, so for example, I only do that with a 10-second delay, which means that if I'm looking at like Apple, the stock price I'm reading is 10-second delayed at maximum. So for 10 seconds, I don't have any new price updates. So and then the next update comes in at 10 seconds. That is considered fine. So it's not a really like your serving latency, but this is so for 10 seconds allowed for the freshness of the data of the price. Yeah.
Okay, great. Wow, this is very specific. You must have experience with this.
No. Yeah.
Awesome, great. Okay, good. Let's have at it, shall we?
Cool.
So I would just say at this point we can start off with user, and this is where they're going to be coming in, whether for the app or desktop, you know, web or other gateway. I would just be looking to setting up a sort of authorization permissioning gateway here. This is just basically, I am going to say a bit of a load balancer in the sense, and I'll get more specifics in there later on, but I'm just going to call this the LB from which this is going to be signing into. And all functionality would basically coming through here through the signing in and basically the different CNDs, but I'll get into it later on. So the first service I would see here is basically the API. I would want to create that here. And this is going to be stocks. I would say stocks viewing.
Mhm.
This will allow the person to take a look at it. And this is going to be a get.
Mhm.
He's going to pull that information from. This will allow us to view the stocks. And here, I would say stocks. Let's just call it assets viewing.
Mhm.
The reason why I want to change the name is because I see this also serving as something to see at the companies too.
Mhm.
So we have basically being able to view individual stocks, but also items about the company itself.
Mhm.
And what we would want to do here, I'm just trying to think of the other, how this is going to branch out with regards to how is this going to branch out with regards to I would want to do like you know what, I am going to change this a little bit here. I am going to, the reason why I'm going to have this, and actually, I'm going to leave this here, but what I'll do is I will have a service created that's going to basically, this is going to be slightly feeding into this here on the side. And this is going to be something feeding like availability. Now, I would classify this as sort of like a stock, like a inventory of what's available. And this is going to be separate from pricing. This is going to feed into this. And then we'll have a separate one specifically for pricing.
Okay, so availability of a stock or like,
Yeah, basically what's
okay.
available. Like
Okay,
you know,
I see.
you would if you break it off, you'll have not anything becoming everything sitting on one point, all the logic
Got
sitting
it.
on one point. It would become a choke point with regards to making sure that there's no latency. So I would want to break these things off, meaning what's available and what the pricing is. Trying to think of whether, and we're not going to go into the option of purchasing here. So I don't see any points here on that. What I would want to do is take this and also provide a caching because we are allowing a 10-second delay. This will allow us to cache the information over here, and I would just give it Redis as the cache. So every 10 seconds, it would be coming over here for viewing. This would be a post. In here, I would say these were again also posting into this. And this guy now come over here. And that's the choke point right here. All right, so we have items about the company, the stocks, pricing, availability. We go into caching here.
So when you mention choke point, is it pretty much like a like a rate limiter, or I'm trying to understand what's available, what's not available?
So what I was going to say, choke point was basically if we're looking at a 10-second delay, why have everything come into here? Let this be a process we can schedule for it to retrieve the information and post it into Redis where the person can view it. And that's where he would be seeing it. And this would allow us to then also create time to live policy, like where we say, good, so this is every 10 seconds, this has to clear out and get
I see.
updated. And this would then allow us to schedule updates to pull in through the API and be able to predict the workload that's coming in. So it's easier to see how it's scalable, as opposed to if you load everything into this part right here, it's going to become a choke point, and we don't know what's viewing, what's pulling, and it's going to be less difficult to schedule things and create more predictability, and the performance loads will start spiking more unfrequent than we can predict.
Okay, sounds good.
So this will be Redis here. Trying to think of if we're looking for any other points of concern. So you did mention about a watch list, and I don't want to go out of scope, but what I'm thinking of, if you have something that's a watch list, you also want to be kind of notified about these kind of things, right? You'd want to know, like, you're watching it. If something goes to a certain price, you maybe want to be notified about that kind of stuff. So that's something I may want to take into account. But on the watch list itself is we're going to create a separate item here that the person is going to be looking at, and it's going to be feeding in from, we'll have watch list service, and again, this will be the get, and it's going to be, we'll have a that information being updated from here. So it's going to be bidirectional, retrieving that here. I would want to support this with a MySQL or just a SQL cluster, because just want it to reside somewhere. Let's see here.
For the watch lists themselves, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And just so you get the idea that it is a cluster, so that the information is retained somewhere. On the on just sort of like the assets viewing, I would also want that to be stored somewhere. I would want to create again another cluster here to be able to support that. On a database.
Okay.
Trying to think here. So then from here, I could see two notification systems, one coming off the watch list and one coming off. No, because it's the watch list. That's where you would want your notifications to come from. I wouldn't see an instance of it coming off the assets viewing. And the reason being, we did note. Is because if he wants to get notification, he's watching it. So this is where it would be coming from. It wouldn't be coming from here. So I wouldn't see a case of instance of having two needed. Just one would be sufficient. And then with regards to the pricing now.
Yeah.
Okay, pricing. How would I go about that one? Well, we have it here, but you're very specific in some of your requirements. Change the viewing windows. So for that, trying to think of what will be the best way of doing that. If I was to, what I can do is this. I would move. They'll be coming from here though, because I was thinking about potentially doing doing two things: creating an elastic search cluster for the search items that's coming out of Redis, and then from there creating that search consumer service to be able, or that's where you would get that option of being able to play with it. But what I would need to do to make that possible is move this slightly. So I'm going to move this here and take this guy right here. And what I would do is try to make this look a little nice so it's orderly. So this is the first time I've created this. Kind of like piecing this together as I'm talking this through. So this is going to be the elastic search service, no, cluster, sorry. And then from here, and the reason why I say elastic search, because the one thing is, I don't know about you, but I'm not an English major. My words tend to be sometimes fuzzy, like, there's like, words you sometimes know of, but you don't know exactly how to spell it. This helps you with that, the fuzzy searching.
Yeah.
So with that option, you would see that support of your search options. And then from here is where we get into adding that little bit of I'm going to take this guy and move him down a little bit so there's a space. Then here is where I would create this sort of like, I would call this, I think I called it a search. What I call it? I call it a search customer service. And this would allow these options you're mentioning of being able to create these little search options here that you had in mind.
Cool. Yeah. So that's a very good point. So I started with like searching for exact matches on the stock symbols to start with. So using the elastic search function, we can expand that. So that search is going to be boring, but now we can search a lot of things, even like the reverse index. So for some like information about the company, like car builders, like so.
Yeah,
cool.
Perfect.
This is great. Yeah, so I want you to circle back to the price chart. Currently we still don't have the data.
Yes.
So I want to be a little more specific about like how are we? So in your backend, and how are we going to sync with the NYSE to get the data and serve it to our users?
Yes, exactly. So to help me understand some of maybe the edges around this price chart. So you were talking about different viewing options, and are you looking at basically being able to pivot the information differently via the UI, or is this something that's going to be aggregated in the back end like a report?
Yeah, so from the user side, I can just have some like I'm staying on the price chart, and there are some buttons I can switch, like 1 day, 1 year. So every time I switch, the default time interval is also changed. So for example, if I'm doing one year, So there's going to be like a default time gap between my data points, which is most probably it's going to be 1 day.
Mhm.
So for each day, I have a closing price. So essentially, if I'm supporting like 1 year, so during the year there are about like 200 trading days. So
Mhm.
199 of those numbers are going to be historical price, like yesterday, the day before yesterday, and so 199 old prices, they're not going to change. They're going to be like historical, closing prices,
Mhm.
and one number, which is today's data. And for that piece, you're thinking like every 10 seconds, right? So it's going to
Mhm.
be moved. So um, you might even not notice it, but really what's happening is like the right hand the tip of your price chart is going to move up and down based
Mhm.
on the current price, right?
Right.
If you switch that to 1 day and everything else stays the same, it's just each historical window
Mhm.
changes. So now for 1 year, my historical like each window is going to be a day, right? So I get like one number a day.
Mhm.
So if you switch it to your view to one day, then for example, every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes, I'm going to close the window. So if you want to make it more fancy, we have like opening, closing, high, lows during each window. But for now,
Mhm.
let's just consider the closing. So for example, if you when the market starts at 9 o'clock, you create the first window, which is from 9 to 9:05. And after 9:05, that becomes part of the history. The closing price at 9:05, that becomes part of the history. And then you have a new window, that's the one you're currently processing, which is the
Mhm.
window between 9:05 and 9:10, right? So yeah, so every time after each like 5 second window, you sort of close it, and that becomes part of your historical data, and your curve is going to keep expanding. Yeah.
Holy smokes. Okay.
Mhm,
This
mhm.
you've just killed my setup here. This is not going to work anymore. That is intense. We
Yeah,
have
but only the back end, right? So
backend, yeah,
yeah.
backend exactly. But we
Mhm,
need to rescale this because this is not going to
mhm,
work anymore. We've
mhm,
got massive amounts of data coming in
mhm,
that we are going to have to pull, aggregate, pivot, and present.
mhm,
And we need that all within 10 seconds. So this right here has just become obsolete.
mhm,
I think I've got time to go through this again. I have to rework
mhm.
this. This that is serious. Okay. Oh wow. So I need something that can feed into
Mhm.
and pull this information into. I don't know which one you feel stronger about, but I need either a Kafka or a Google Kinetis,
Mhm.
where it
Mhm.
basically can stream it in. Like which one would you feel stronger about?
Yeah, maybe Kafka.
Kafka? Okay, good.
Mhm,
So with Kafka, I have a couple of we have some product limitations with Kafka, but
mhm.
we can add some additional apps to it to support it. From what I'm hearing, what you're asking for. So let me go ahead and let me explode this out here because this is going to be this is definitely not going to work. I basically need to know. I have to pull and what's going to happen is this is not going to be the center point of pretty much everything. And what I mean by that is basically we're going to be having something that's going to feed into
Mhm.
a lot of the stuff. And like, for instance, this notification can't be here anymore. It's be coming out of Kafka now.
Mhm.
Um, trying to think here. This would have to feed into here.
Mhm.
And the asset viewing also would have to feed into there. And so what's going to happen is we're going to have, just to walk through this again. So the person signs in, does a search. We have the option of basically pulling some of the views from here, but it's going to be fed from this. And what's going to happen is there is going to be here we can do additional things. We can do we can actually have this point now. This really opens up a lot of options here. I'm glad you brought this up, actually. This is where we can do
Also NYSE, like a
sorry,
exchange. Yeah.
You know, I should know this.
No, it's this is not part of the interview.
I should know this because I was in fintech before,
right.
a couple of years ago. So
okay.
This will be not really a service, but it's more like an inbound feeding in. API calls coming in where you feed into this. You would have I'm trying to think of other things that would feed into this thing. That's fine. I do have now the biggest issue I have right now is based off what you said, we have a massive limitation with Kafka as an option here. And let me just go ahead and go over how I would address that. Basically, what I would have to do, I think I got enough real estate up here to do that. I actually just move this guy. I asked for you, buddy. I asked for this. There we go. Thanks. You know what? I'm gonna go right here, clean it up, make it a little prettier. Thank you. All right, so here I'm gonna have to basically do a slight change. And the reason why is because I need an Apache Spark streaming cluster here. The reason being is because within Kafka, we're gonna have several topics where they're gonna be publish, consume, whatever that topic is, it's gonna be aggregated in smaller different like pods or clusters for it to process the data that's coming in. Using this will allow us to be scalable to what you just talked about. Because that is just a whole new level of UI experience that I was not envisioning.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and write it here. So Spark streaming cluster. The thing with this is that it's great, but neither Kafka nor Spark streaming can do aggregation. And in the sense of what I understand, you are asking for, and that's why they can in a sense, but we're gonna have a choke point. And that's gonna be able to handle that with basically a Hadoop cluster. And the reason why is because this guy is really good at aggregation. And with that, it would feed back into here and then come back into the consumer and be able to view it.
Yeah, cool.
Right here. The assets availability pricing comes in, feeds in here. Updates come in here, feeds through this. And then from there, this is the where most of the logic will sit and be able to process those fancy features you mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then I'm trying to see if there's anything else that might be missing here from the requirements. Pricing. Okay.
Yeah, so the NYC inbound, calling is gonna process messages and update the stock prices like every 10 seconds in
Correct.
your Kafka streaming, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where we're going to be able to come into Spark, chunk them into, I believe they call them RRDM streams. And then from there into an aggregation process that can pull it together. And if you break that off, it's going to be able to easily view that information. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry, we have a break here. We have a massive break here. It feeds into here.
Nice.
I'm sorry.
So eventually, you're just going to pull data from the Redis cluster. Yes.
Correct.
Great. Okay, so this
was
is
a big miss.
Huh? No, it's yeah. This is overall. This is pretty cool.
Okay.
So yeah. So I have a follow-up question. So instead of like using Kafka and update the stock price like every 10 seconds, what if we just sort of our whole service act like a router, and every time when the user queries some stock, we're just going to do a like full round trip to NYSE and get the latest price or even price history from NYSE. What is the pros and cons between the current design and the other? So
I know I see what you're coming from. Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
I would have a slight reservation in that. In that we can't quite control it with regard to what's coming in. If you're doing a direct router into that, and the other one is basically, I would say that this product is, I think we would want to be able to provide those reports, that sort of wish list, that sort of notification, that more user experience of what what they want as a need and wanted from their perspective. I think that would allow us to, okay, let me just take a step back here. Are you referring to this feeding into Kafka or replacing the Kafka?
So currently we are updating the, so in your NYSE inbound is going to update the stock price for all of the stocks, like, right. So yeah, every 10 seconds, right?
Right.
So well, what if we, so whenever the user queries some specific stock or maybe a group of stocks, if from the watch list, so instead of having a streaming service that updates all of the stocks like every 10 seconds, I'm just gonna let the user to query the NYSE and get the latest price for that particular stock or group of stocks. Right?
So he wants to go directly here and get the information, as opposed to waiting for the 10-second delay.
Right. So what is the pros and cons for between these two?
I would say that the pros is you were not getting the 10-second delay. Maybe there is going to be a something's happening really fast right now. Like things are going really volatile, and that's why these guys are on the floor buying and selling instantly. They need to snap decisions. I see something drop. Oh my God, that 1 second drop just lost $5 billion for my clients. I got to sell because it might be dropping again. So that would be a massive pro. The con is you're just getting that report. You're not seeing anything else. Let's say our system can do other aggregations and pull in other data feeds in connection with that. So let's say you're in the housing market, and you, as part of let's say your watch list item is you want additional services in there to be able to view how is steel doing, how is wood doing, how is concrete doing, in that list, you can see a variable, how that fluctuates, and then it gives you a prediction of how the housing is going to go. So let's say there's other factors that directly affect the housing industry that you want to watch in those queries when you pull that information up. When you're in direct, I would say we should have that option because of the knock out that 10-second delay, but you will not have the benefit of the product itself of being able to see all the reports being generated for you, specifically for you on your specifications parameters.
Right. That's good. So eventually our so from your Hadoop cluster, we could even like dump the data to like either MySQL cluster or some other like a data storage to get the full history like every 10 seconds, right? So we can run some analysis. Yeah, that's one good point about the current one. And the other thing thinking is so if I have a QPS, let's say, I don't know, 5,000 from our users, and if we have a 5,000 QPS, it means that we have a 5,000 QPS calling the MySC API, right? So, but if we do the maths, if we have like 6,000 stocks, we do that every 10 seconds instead. So if we do like every 1 second, our QPS is going to be like 6,000. If we do every 10 seconds, that drops down to 600, right?
Yeah.
So so essentially, MIC is going to charge a small fee every time. So by limiting the number of calls to that API, we are also limiting the cost.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, that's another thing about So so essentially we are utilizing that 10-second delay to minimize our
traffic load. Yes, you're right.
Exactly.
That's a good
cost
point too.
and traffic load. Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So but to get one feedback I have is to get those numbers, maybe we can, during the non-functional requirement, we can besides the latency, we could also estimate something like a QPS, right? So
yes,
you can ask the interviewer, oh, how many daily active users do we have? How many registered users?
yes.
Right? So from the registered users, oh, how many stocks? So
I
how
should
many?
have. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes,
So
I should have done that.
So from the how many stocks, we may be able to get the estimate on the data size. From how many daily active users, we can get some information about the QPS, and then we can use this information to guide. By the way, this is a beautiful system design diagram. I've never seen something more clear.
Okay, great.
Like
Thank
this.
you.
Yeah. This is almost in production if you present this to the rest of the team.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. So so essentially we can use those numbers to guide our engineering decisions. So for the Redis cache, if we calculate the aggregate the number size, like for 1 year, we are supporting like 200 numbers, multiplied by 4 bytes, and over, I don't know, 5 years on average, multiplied by 6,000 stocks, it's still going to be in gigabyte data size. So we can enable which enables us to even like cache everything. So gigabyte of data, you can easily fit it into a Redis cluster, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for the watch lists, of course, we still need it in our backend, like MySQL cluster for persistent, but maybe we can also use the cache app, app cache or browser cache to store this watch list, because they're like really small data, right?
App cache. Wow, you're right.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, so I feel bad. But overall, this is pretty strong, and it definitely
Nice.
did
Yeah,
serve the
well,
strong
you brought
pass.
some
Yeah.
great points there. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Is it
sure.
possible I can have this recording in the
Sure.
uploaded?
Yeah,
Because
this is automatic recorded, and it's
okay,
going to, after I think right after this, you're gonna see that generated in
this is. I
your
mean, the
Apple Watch
feedback you've
system.
given me was awesome. I definitely want to take that into account for future
Cool.
designs. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.